This is a E36 318i. It's having a issue with the aircon compressor where it can't turn on normally using the switch. However, the compressor itself is fine. So to diagnose this issue, I began first at the pressure switch here. I've removed it, and ensuring there was enough pressure to trip the switch, I've measured the terminals to ensure there was continuity between them. That was no issue. I've removed the plug, jumped those specific wires to see if it was a issue in cabling. That wasn't the issue either. So I've traced those two wires back to the climate control unit, or the IHKR unit as it's commonly called. Had all this out and ensured the harness from here to the engine isn't severed or anything like that. I've tested those specific wires, which I remember were on this plug, and there was no issue with that. Later I tested all the inputs and outputs to this unit, so mainly power. There's multiple earths as well, which I believe most of them were on this plug. All that turned out fine. We ensured the aircon button was working fine by bypassing those wires that go to the control unit from the module. Next, what I did is measured all the inputs and outputs, mainly the evaporator temperature sensor, that and a few other things. All the values turned out fine. One of the other things I did is just make sure at the switching side and at the relay, which normally goes here, we've had power. There is earth. I've tested the potential by hooking up a bulb just to make sure there's enough potential for current to flow. Measured continuity from the compressor wire to the socket. Everything was fine. Also tried bypassing the relay. That did turn on the compressor. I noticed I wasn't able to get any ground on this wire from the ECU when the aircon button was pressed. So various reasons for that, mainly which is why I did all the testing inside. One thing I also did was I found that trigger wire, which is supposedly supposed to go from the DME to that socket, the center pin. I've undone a bit of a harness and I decided to make a very small incision here in that wire, which is pin 46 on the DME. Tested continuity from the DME to that, just to rule out any issues from the DME to there, so I can use that as a reliable test point. So that way I can have the engine running with the plug on and see if this wire is behaving properly, which I found out it is. So I've used this test point here just to see if there was any continuity along the harness to wherever it goes back to the fuse box, which there wasn't. The wiring diagram which I was using didn't show any intermediate plugs or anything like that, so which I found very fishy given the way everything is run here. So I've begun undoing plugs across the whole engine bay just so I can see if I can find that wire anywhere which helps me to trace it, short of having to remove a whole fuse box. So this connector, which I believe links the fuse box to the harness, I found it was on pin number 4 on there, which the diagram I was using didn't show me. So the mating plug, again, number 4, which is that one, has a collapsed pin.